Hello and welcome to another Under Hughes tournament replay analysis. I'm your host Typhoon Carter. Today here I'm covering a match from the Drewvitational. The Drewvitational is a underused double elimination tournament that was hosted by Sir Wings and Just Drew. It also has a $300 prize pool, so there are some quality players in this tournament that signed up for it. I'll probably post a link to the Discord in the description in case you guys want to join the server and kind of see what people are using and whatnot. So yeah, that's also going on alongside with Underused Masters, which I currently have a buy for round 1 at the time I'm recording this. I might probably cover that as we go along. But going into this matchup, I'm playing against TSR. TSR is a council member, so they're one of the people who help decide what gets ranked highly or what gets ranked low, what gets banned, what doesn't, all that stuff, right? So yeah, he's got a lot of say with what goes on in UU, I guess, if you want to put it like that. Anyways, on team preview. What I have here on my side is Scarf Raptor. It's running Jolly Nature because there's a lot of stuff you need to outspeed with Jolly that Adamant doesn't. Sandy Shock's classic Focus Sash Stealth Rock free attacks with Terra Ice, because Electric Ground Ice, very good combination to have. And then we have Heavy Duty Boots Slither Wings, great priority, all that stuff. Sword Stance Mimikyu, again, another strong priority user. Ghost Fairy is a decent stab combo. Not walled by too many things. And then we have Iron Jugulis. Iron Jugulis, unfortunately, doesn't have Nasty Plot, but it's a all-out attacking set with its 4th move being U-turn in case it needs to pivot out of bad matchups, such as Tyranitar or whatnot. It's honestly a pretty solid Pokemon. Sometimes Specs is also pretty good on Iron Jugulis, but that's for another day. And then we have Shift Gear Toxtricity also running a plus speed nature. This is because Toxtricity needs a plus speed at +2 speed boost in order to outspeed Scarf Gengar, so that's a very important benchmark. And then it's running Overdrive, Boom Burst because Terra Normal if you want to go that route. And then its last move, normally it can either be Drain Punch or Sludge Bomb. I think I had Drain Punch for this match. Anyways, on TSR side, he has a Gengar. Gengar, again, very threatening Pokemon. It can spam Shadow Ball with Specs. It can be Substitute, Nasty Plot. It could also be Choice Scarf like I talked about. And then we also have Tyranitar, one of 2 possible Stealth Rock setters for TSR. It also could be Choice Band, which would fit on this kind of team composition, or even be Dragon Dance. Again, very threatening Pokemon. Tyranitar's thing has always been its versatility in terms of the kind of move sets and spreads it can run. And then we have Rotom here. Rotom, again, very solid Scarfer. It's a pretty decent replacement to compensate for the loss of Rotom Wash, who did leave underused due to shifts. And then we have Quagsire. Quagsire is just a very reliable defensive wall. Very solid backbone that it can form up with Tyranitar and Tinkaton, and it can also lay down spikes. Toxic Spreading is a huge one. Tinkaton, general utility mon, so he's got and then he finally has Noivern, which is his possible hazard removal from what I can tell, although his team doesn't need hazard removal as badly, so it could also be Specs. Again, that's a possibility. But we will find out soon enough. So TSR's basically got this nice balanced team, more or less. So going into turn 1 here, he leads off with Tyranitar, I lead off with Staraptor. Now I know that he should not ever stay in with Tyranitar since it has close combat. So I U-turn out, you know, very safe pivot. And he goes into Rotom Mow, expecting me to like Earth Power. I lay down Stealth Rocks, that was a very free play. Rotom here makes a very interesting play where it tricks its Choice Scarf away, thinking that I might switch out, which is an understandable assumption that he made on his end. Although with Sandy Shocks here, I decided, hey, you know what, I don't want to eat a Leaf Storm, so I'm gonna Terra Ice, and also bank on the fact that he's not gonna attempt to Volt Switch on me. So I immediately use my Terra to get rid of Rotom Mow, which was a big nuisance to my team. And then, you know, he brings out Tyranitar, I don't want to stay in at all. And then Tyranitar lays down Rock, so we find out that T-Tar is his Rock Setter. And here I bring in Slitherwing in case, although he could have also Stone Edged me, but we find out it's a utility Tar. And here, very free U-turn for me. He goes into Noivern. He doesn't take any damage from Hazard, so I immediately know that it's Heavy Duty Boots. And this is a very important turn for me, and for him really. And I go for close combat, trying to cover the Tyranitar switch and the Tinkaton switch, so going to Quagsire, very smart play. Although he also needed to be weary of me going into Brave Bird, since that also could have dealt a lot of damage to his Quagsire, but you know, it's an okay mid-ground play for him, since I already tear it. Now, I go Heart Toxtricity. This is because I anticipated that he was going to try and Toxic me, which I get the turn completely right. And I dip out again, anticipating a double. He brings out Gengar, and he Will-O-Wisp me. Now, he took a hazard damage, and he did not reveal Lefties or Black Sludge, so it might be a Choice Locked Gengar with Will-O-Wisp as its filler moves. I'm actually not sure. And then I go into Iron Jugulis because I found it kind of weird that, because I'm thinking, okay, if he just whisked me and he didn't get any recovery, like something's up, right? So I go into Iron Jugulis knowing that it doesn't really care about getting burned. He goes into T-Tar here and I U-turn one more time. I go into Mimikyu because I know I can immediately start to pose a massive threat. And he goes into Tinkaton. Now Tinkaton here, I don't want to set up. So I go for Play Rough here, and he anticipates this. Now, staying in with Mimikyu against Tinkaton is a bad idea since Gigaton Hammer will instantly kill me. So like, he knows this, I know this. I dip out into Slitherwing. He Gigaton Hammers me, which to me is no big deal. My Slitherwing dies because I realized that since it was burned, it was more or less dead weight. Here, so like, I decided to go into Iron Jugulis because I know most Tinkaton actually don't run Play Rough. And I figured that there's a very high chance that it might have been like SD Encore, Knock Gigaton. That's a very common spread. So, you know, I go for Flamethrower on the Noivern. And I know that the Noivern doesn't hit hard enough to really hurt me. He Hurricanes me, there lands whatever. I go into Staraptor. This is a really important turn for TSR. It's also a very important turn for me, because TSR is in this very difficult position where he realizes that he probably needs to keep his Noivern alive, but he also probably realizes that Sandy Shocks is also probably a big threat to him, but since T-Tar gets a Spadef boost in Sand, he has a little bit of leeway. As for me, if I get rid of his Noivern, my Sandy Shocks could potentially win the game for him. So, you know, I go for Brave Bird, knowing that he doesn't have a real switch in. Tyranitar comes in, and I'm thinking, okay, why don't I just chip? I get a critical hit there, which was more than what I expected. All I was looking to do was get some chip damage on T-Tar. He Rock Blast me. I'm like, okay, you know what? No big deal. This is because I know that Sandy Shocks can just kill with Earth Power. Nothing can switch in. Gengar doesn't have Levitate. That's for like any older folks around. He goes to Tinkaton. while I know Tinkaton can deal a lot. And then he reveals to be Terra Flying. So going into Toxtricity seemed like a pretty good call for me. The reason I actually didn't stay in with Sandy Shocks was because most Tinkaton run special defense investment. So it usually only does about 50% or so, and I don't want to risk throwing my win con away. So I went into Toxtricity thinking it was a pretty safe play. Here they substitute, and then they knock me off, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to mess around. Actually, no, what I should have done here was I should have just shift geared. Had I shift geared there, I would have just instantly put a TSR in a lot of trouble. Here he sludge bombs, and I go into Mimikyu because I still don't know if it's actually Choice Scarf or not. He goes into Quagsire, pretty smart play. A Shadow Claw. Now I decide to switch out into Iron Jugulis because I know Jugulis is also another Pokemon that can threaten the remaining Mons left on this team. I go for Dark Pulse here. My goal was actually very simple. It was to simply spam, like at least run special attacks down where Quagsire down. I had to pull up the calc during this turn, and I realized that Dark Pulse was actually a high roll on Quagsire, and then I realized that if I really want to secure this kill, I needed to go for Hurricane. If I had missed a Hurricane and he recovers up, it's like, okay, no problem. I can just start fishing for Dark Pulse flinches and go from there. Might be a little bit unnecessarily risky. I should have just got Hurricane first and then go from there, but you know. He brings out Gengar, he kills me, no biggie. So as a result, I am able to Shadow Sneak for free, and that is game 1. So I am up 1-0 on TSR. And you know, this was a game that I felt very comfortable with, and I knew that I basically had the game under control, and that TSR was really far behind once his Noivern went down. Since he had no Sandy Shock switch in that was reliable. Let's just go into game 2. Okay, so we got game 2 here. This time I decided to bring out a more balance-ish kind of team that's centered around Flame Orb Heracross with Terra Normal to have stronger facades, and also specs a Boomburst Noivern. That's another option I have going for me too. And you know, I have a decent defensive pairing with Slowking and Tyranitar, also Talonflame for hazard removal. And I also brought my own Rotom-Mow as a Scarfer. Over on TSR's side, he has a kind of fat-ish team. You know, he has Hippowdon, Lochan, and Klefki. That's a pretty decent defensive core he has going there. And then we also have Kilowattrel, which is rare outside of rain. So that's not a sight you see too often. And he also has Tatsugiri serving as a spinner. It could also run Nasty Plot. Slitherwing's a pretty major threat to my team, so I'm gonna need to focus on preserving Talonflame. With that being said, let's just get right into this. I do have Tyranitar here. He leads off Kilowattrel. Very safe matchup for me. The unfortunate thing was that I have no actual ground immunity for this, so I bring in Slowking here. And what I do here is I decided to basically throw a Future Sight. I know that the Tatsugiri's gonna get a spin-off for free, which is no biggie for me because I can just kind of get back at it. I go into Tyranitar. I know that Tatsugiri can't really kill me outright, and I decided to try and paralyze whatever I come into because I know that Kilowattrel doesn't like coming into me. So I get rocks out for free, and I decide to go into Heracross, thinking that if he tries to status me, then like I can still punish him. Although here he brings out Slitherwing, I use Trailblaze. I'm at +1 speed, right? So here he goes into Terra Ghost, which is a very smart Terra from TSR since he realizes that I was going to go for Facade. But luckily I had Throat Chop, so his Slitherwing goes down swinging. And then for some reason he brings out his Kilowattrel. I had to Terra normal there because regular facade on Heracross actually doesn't kill watch well, so getting rid of that was kind of huge for me. And it brings out Hippowdon, and at this point I realized my Heracross is low on health, so I might as well get as much mileage as I can. Unfortunately, he heals off a good chunk of that damage, and I die due to Rocky Helmet. Here I have Rotom Mow ready to threaten, and I decide to go for a trick because I think everything on his team except for Tatsugiri kinda hates getting tricked. And here I tried to Will-O-Wisp, which doesn't work out, and he poison powders me, which still has my head scratching. Which is very rare, but powder moves don't work on grass types. The more you learn, I suppose. Anyway, so here his Klefki has Toxic Orb, and my Rotom Mow is now on a bit of a timer. But I decided to bring Slowking out again. Try to get that Future Sight set up. I can always paralyze, I go into Noivern. I'm thinking, let's just click buttons. Although, going to Flamethrower was honestly not a great move for me. But I kill his Hippowdon, which I think is actually inconvenient for me since I was locked in. Honestly, I think that turn was a big mistake for me because I should have just clicked Boom Burst no matter what. And now he gets to Nasty Plot up and I'm like in big trouble because I don't have Thunder Wave on this Slowking. I'm like desperately trying to... And then I get crit on Rotom, which I think doesn't really matter. His Tatsugiri takes a lot of damage, and I'm just like trying to draw out. I was trying to draw out the Draco Meteor, but then this kind of just works against me. So yeah, like everything that's going wrong for me is going wrong for me, and I also am not playing too well. I was trying so hard to actually bait out the... But unfortunately, I take way too much damage from Draco Meteor, and I just can't do anything about this. I think I could have, but man, yeah, that game was brutal. I think locking into a Flamethrower on Specs Noivern was a huge mistake on my part, and then that's when things got out of hand for me. Trying to play around the Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri was also a bit of an uncommon pick, so I guess his team wasn't too prepared to handle that, so that's on me. And running physical defense on Slowking, not a great idea. I think after this match I readjusted my Slowking's defensive spreads so that I don't get randomly cheesed by this. Anyways, let's just go right into Game 3. So Game 3 here, I decided to bring back the same team again, except my Toxtricity now has Sludge Bomb over a Drain Punch. Anyways, and on TSR's side, he has Salamence, which could be Dragon Dance, very, very nasty. It's up there with Haxorus as like a great Dragon Dance sweeper for this tier. Slowking, you know, physical defensive wall, it could be running Rocky Helmet, Future Sight. It doesn't have Teleport unfortunately, but either way, it's a decent backbone. He has Tyranitar once again, and I don't really know what set this T-Tar is. Tinkaton, Utility Mon, and then Brambleghast is his Spiker and Spinner, and then we have like Sandy Shocks, which could be heavy duty boots. All that stuff, so he's got like this kind of fat-ish team, kinda. Let's just hop right in. Turn 1 here, I lead off Slitherwing. He goes into Sandy Shocks, and he goes into Salamence. I immediately suss out the Salamence and I go U-turn. I go right into my own Sandy Shocks. And I throw out Stealth Rocks here, and his Salamence reveals to be special attacking, which makes things a little bit annoying for me. So here I'm like trying to make sure his special attack is reduced, but I also get away staying in on a Hurricane, which honestly I had no business doing that, but I was very fortunate that that worked out for me. Here I just click Brave Bird on Staraptor, knowing that he can't really do much about it. He throws out Stealth Rocks here, and I decide to go into Toxtricity. I activate the Throat Spray, and I decide to throw out Sludge Bomb. And at +1, Brambleghast's special defense is very poor that I don't think the crit actually mattered, and that it was going down anyways. Here I decide to Terra Normal, and the Sandy Shocks here is ready to eat like a shift gear. And eats a Boom Burst, goes down, and he brings in his Tyranitar. I overdrive here because I know that if it tries to Dragon Dance, I can like overdrive again since it won't outspeed me, and his Tyranitar is forced to go for the kill. I think his Tyranitar is actually choice locked, and since my Slitherwing is still alive, I'm allowed to get away with this BS and U-turn out for free. I go into Sandy Shocks here, knowing that I can click Earth Power relatively freely. Although for some reason I don't do that because I'm dumb. And this Tyranitar does so much damage that I realize that this is actually CB Tar. And he goes out into Slowbro. I first impression, and his Slowbro is eating a whole lot of damage. And he strategically sacks his Tyranitar. He goes as Salamence again, and I just stay in, knowing that I can get a free U-turn or a free switch-in entry-wise. And I decide to just click Brave Bird, because, you know, there's not much to think about. And you can Brave Bird for free, and his team's switch-ins are very spotty. And funnily enough, after this, I think TSR mentioned in game chat that he was like, wait, does Toxtricity get... Oh wait, Toxtricity still gets Drain Punch. I no longer feel like a moron, he quotes. But in TSR's defense, he wasn't wrong. I did have a variation of Toxtricity that did run Drain Punch, to be fair. Anyways, so here's Tinkaton takes out my Staraptor, but at this point I know that his team's too weak to actually take me on. And I just click Earth Power. Earth Power is extremely free in this situation. Like, no matter what I do. And here his Salamence kills my Sandy Shocks, but it's too little too late because he just dies to Shadow Sneak. And that is game set match. So I was able to win the set 2-1. I think I played a pretty solid set for the most part, besides choking hilariously towards the end of game 2, where I made like a bunch of awful plays that just led to my demise. That I honestly think I should have been able to win this 2-0. But you know, a set win is a set win. GG's to TSR. And with that being said, I will see you guys next time.